We got Brock Pierce here.
Hey, Brock, how are you?
Hey, are we live? Are we talking? Oh, you got Brock Pierce here.
Hey, Brock, how are you?
Hey, are we live? Are we talking to everyone in El Salvador?
It seems we are. They asked us to unmute ourselves. Who's moderating the panel? Are you, Brock?
Not that I'm aware of, but I have some questions in here in my calendar. It says that we're starting with panelists to introduce themselves. So if we want to go ahead and do that, if someone believes they're meant to moderate, we can step in, or I think we can hopefully self-govern and self-moderate. And I think the rules of that would mean don't talk too long, make sure that everyone gets to speak their points. And the conversation is, again, how this is important to nations and governments. So I'll just begin. My name is Brock Pierce. Grateful for the opportunity to speak with all of you. I am incredibly excited about everything that has happened in El Salvador. I'm a big believer in what happens with nation states and what happens with legislation and regulation right now. And so I have a background as an entrepreneur, started working with technology, building my first businesses as a teenager in Internet 1.0 with a focus on digital media, YouTube, Netflix, Hulu type of stuff long before they were started. Then I got into digital currency. I was the largest market maker of digital currencies inside of online games like World of Warcraft and Second Life. Built up a team of hundreds of thousands of people, principally in China, that played games professionally to mine those digital currencies, where we were PayPal's largest merchant for years. We were instrumental in the launching of Alipay. We rolled up all the exchanges around the world. And so became very familiar with cross-border payments and all the things necessary. And this was throughout the 2000s. My main investors were Goldman Sachs and all the big players. And so for me, getting into cryptocurrency was inevitable. I'm chairman of the Bitcoin Foundation. I was chairman of Mastercoin, the first ICO, founder of Tether, the first stablecoin, co-founder of Blockchain Capital, the first venture fund, Noble Bank, co-founder of Noble Bank, the first crypto bank, BCAP, first security token, Lighthouse. More recently, we're raising money for NFTs for Ukraine, for anyone that wants to get involved in helping in this humanitarian crisis. And I will not run on any longer, other than I spend a lot of my time right now running around the world, talking to world leaders to help inform them and make innovation available to them and show them what's possible. One of the things that I've experienced in my life is that as an entrepreneur, we're tipped on the forefront of innovation. We're generally allergic to government, bureaucracy, and big companies. And what I've found in my conversations with government is that they are very interested in innovation. And so the left hand just isn't talking to the right. And so my current title, I would say, is I'm a translator and a tour guide and facilitator, connecting innovators with governments to figure out how we build a better world together. And in the instance of El Salvador, a team of 37 of us came into El Salvador shortly after the Bitcoin law was passed. It was the first formal delegation into El Salvador since the pandemic. And out of that group, a lot of the technology and infrastructure was put in place to help drive the success that's here and that we've seen as a great example for the rest of the world to follow. Rob, would you like to go next?
Sure, I go. Thank you, Brock, and thank you, everyone. I'm in Dubai, I think, with Mario. It's what, 4:30 in the morning over here. So my name is Rob Charles, founder and CEO of Goldfinger.io, no E. We are the first digital investment club. We started in 2014. Background about myself: I've been an entrepreneur for 30 years. I've been a tech entrepreneur for 25 years. First tech startup in 1996 was the first online art gallery. I'm 2 times pro athlete. Played pro soccer straight out of high school. Was WKA North American champion and Thai boxing in 2006 and #2 in the world in 2007. I started investing like 18 years ago in cannabis when it first opened up in 2003 in LA. So invested in real estate. Was in oil and gas for a while, lived in Asia for a number of years. Came back to New York in 2014 to start Goldbringer. Similar to Brock, I'm traveling around the world, talking to world leaders and helping them bring capital to different countries, different projects, as well as connecting projects to capital globally, because I see there's a big disconnect when it comes to capital, because typically in the past, the number one most important thing on the planet, which is capital, intellectual, human, and real capital, has been controlled by the central banks, and there's no one place to go for it. And so what we've done is been able to create connectivity between capital markets, and so that's our mission. Thanks.
Your notifications are going crazy, Rob. So I'll take the mic here. Thank you for having me, everyone. So my name is Mario Nolfo, got into crypto in 2017, been in business for about 10 years, originally from Australia, been traveling for 7 years. So, you know, I've witnessed bureaucracy in different governments around the world, from Eastern Europe. There's an echo somewhere, okay, not anymore. So founded IBC, International Blockchain Consulting, which is one of the leading incubators in the space now. We're behind a few projects over the last few years. And partner at International Blockchain Legal, which is based in Miami, one of the crypto law firms, and recently co-founder of NFT Tech. So we got the NFT ticker going public in North America under that ticker with a focus on NFTs and the metaverse. I want to congratulate everyone in El Salvador for the experiment you guys are doing. I think you're leading the way in a very interesting way. Takes a lot of courage. It'd be very interesting to see where that goes. You know, I'm very deep in the metaverse. I speak at events. Most of it is about the metaverse. It's really what I'm focused on, a digital version of our world. You know, kind of skipping all the bureaucracies we see in most of the countries around the world now, and you know, seeing that transformation from the physical to the digital world has been an interesting journey over the last 2 years. But I won't take up the mic too much, and good to be here with everyone. Alex, you want to go?
Yeah, Alex, you're on mute.
Oh. We can't hear you, Alex.
Hey, hello everyone. Hi Brock. Hi Mario. My name is Alex Martini. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Block Fusion. We've been mining Bitcoin since 2017. My personal adventure in Bitcoin now dates over 10 years ago. I still remember buying my first Bitcoin at $1, and sadly, I probably sold it at $100. But I've been in the space, living and working in New York now for over 10 years, and focusing mostly on cryptocurrency mining, and trying to convince New York State not to ban Bitcoin. It's a full-time job. I need your help, Brock.
Always happy to help or to serve.
Yes. And then I think you're moderating this panel, right?
Yeah, so hello everyone. Thank you for joining us for the Delnorte virtual panel. I'm Dana Kochan, Head of Marketing at Forbes.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah?
Talking to someone else, I thought I was on mute. It's got my assistant's name and it doesn't say my name. I'm just looking for that edit. Sorry.
Yeah. So I'm head of marketing at Bullperks and GameSpot, and the first question is why it's especially important for the nations around the world to utilize blockchain technology, and what will be the implications and benefits of fostering adoption. Brock, please continue.
Okay.
I think it dropped out. The connection dropped out.
I see.
So I can get off with the first point. I think while we're waiting for Brock. Oh, yeah, he's back. He's back. Go ahead, Brock.
Sorry, I was saying that technology has impacted all of our lives, all of our businesses, and it's starting to affect all of our institutions. And the world is changing rapidly. And if you're a nation state, you really want to be asking yourself, what is your country going to look like at the end of the 21st century? That is going to be determined by the decisions being made here and now. And at this time where we're confronted with so many challenges, which are also at the same time opportunities, innovation is the answer to most of them. And the earlier you embrace these innovations, the better off your country and your people will most likely be. El Salvador is a perfect example of that. More than half the world's population, call it almost even 2/3 of the world's population, has no access or limited access to financial services. The issue of financial inclusion is not a new one. It's one that we've been talking about for a long time. When this Bitcoin law was passed in El Salvador, only 30% of the population had access to banking. It was a cash economy for most. I remember when we all came down, when people were taking Ubers, they got out of their car to walk off, and the Uber drivers were like, stop, 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 because you pay cash. And that's just the nature of the economy. And so this Bitcoin law being passed has completely changed those numbers. Despite everyone else's efforts, they had been unsuccessful. This Bitcoin law has now given financial services to 70% of the population of El Salvador. That is empirical evidence. And really grateful right now, the White House here in the US just issued a new executive order. I know a lot of people are on pins and needles, curious what can happen because it's not going through the traditional legislative process. And so the markets have obviously responded positively. The executive order was not one that caused any disruption, but I think is a huge deal. The White House of the United States of America issued an executive order that was not opposed to innovation. I think that clearly the administration has recognized the importance of this, and especially for us here in the US, we're in an election year, midterm elections. Over 40 million Americans have cryptocurrency. The people that own cryptocurrency have amassed about $2 trillion of value over the course of this last 10 years. That's a very big number of voters, and that's a lot of wealth. And for a lot of us, those of us that care about our collective future, we're single issue voters. We are free thinkers. We don't just vote red or blue. And that is a very big voter block, and that is a lot of money. And really happy to see that the Democrats have done the right thing to appeal to this very important voter block that I think is going to make a very big impact in the midterm elections. And so innovation is the answer. That is how we create a more prosperous future. It's going to come from new technologies and new ideas, technologies that drive greater efficiency, greater accountability, more transparency, and democratize access to opportunity. And this is a very important technology, and I'm really glad to see that governments are recognizing it and embracing it. And those that do it early are going to be the leading cities at the end of this century and states.
Thank you. So, Rob Charles, would you like to continue?
Sure. So, I mean, it's pretty simple. Right now, all the current paradigms have been crumbling for the last couple of years, or for some time, and they're continuing to crumble, and it's basically because of outdated systems. And early in 2001, after the tech bubble crash, I got into document process management and content management, basically backfile conversion of hard copy to digital. So I was one of the first people that doing large government contracts in DC to take basically from hard copy to be able to access things digitally, right? So it took time. This is what now people, understand when they can query something on digitally. At one point, it was all hard copy. Well, the same thing's happening now. It's been happening for some time. The current paradigms or systems are broken. Let's call them 2.0 systems. We have to convert to 3.0 systems. I mean, if you look at what's going on now, the inflation rate's the highest right now in the United States it's ever been since 1942. You have war going on in Russia, the rupees, and people going to the digital currency. I mean, it has to happen, right? If you're not with it, you're just gonna get left behind. So it's really just from a technological standpoint, governments, countries have to get up to speed, or they're that's the only really chance they have of bouncing back in this economy, right?
Thank you. And Mario, what is your opinion on this?
Yeah, I'll continue the discussion. You know, I tend to be a bit more pessimistic, and I've been proven wrong today. The executive order caught me by surprise. It was more more positive than I thought. It didn't impact the markets like I expected, and that was a pleasant surprise. I'm pessimistic because the incentive structure of most governments is seriously flawed. Because every politician, at least most politicians, I won't put all of them in a basket as an injustice, they're focused on getting elected in a year, 2 years, 3 years. And, making change that's difficult to comprehend or that won't lead to immediate results will not get you elected. Making change that will benefit a society 10, 20, 50 years from now, that's what blockchain does. I'm worried that it won't be enough. There isn't enough incentive to get that moving fast. But I've been proven wrong. El Salvador's experiment has been incredible. And the results that, Brock mentioned a few numbers, the results have also caught me by surprise. So I think we need more courage in the space. I think we need forward thinkers, but more importantly, we need education. I think we need the society to understand the benefits the technology will bring to countries like El Salvador. And having experiments, having countries like you guys do what you did is a great example that other countries could follow. I think having one country lead the way is probably the hardest part. Having other countries follow, and we've seen that time and time again in history, it's easier. I think we'll see those dominoes fall quicker than we expect. So I started off being pessimistic a few years ago. I was the guy, in 2014, I was the blockchain person and not a Bitcoin person. Remember that argument that kind of got no one talks about anymore. But I was pessimistic back then, and it's just getting better and better. That executive order, the timing of it is incredible. And I think what will happen is more events such as the war in Ukraine will bring more attention to crypto. I think crypto is proving its utility in times like this, and that will continue to happen. So again, I applaud what happened in El Salvador, and I'm fascinated to see what will happen next.
Thank you. And Alex, the question to you, what is happening with the mining industry, and what are the steps that government leaders should take to help adoption and improve Bitcoin mining?
Well, every country should mine Bitcoin, right? So like we saw we have you have countries' reserves in dollars or gold that can be seized or frozen at any time, and clearly one of the path to financial independence or preserve your sovereign independence is to have Bitcoin reserve. And you can buy Bitcoin, which is what El Salvador has been doing, or you can mine Bitcoin. And I think that's going to be a big differentiator in the next 2-3 years. And the heads of states, and I know Brock is doing a great job there, but all the countries there are starting to understand the advantage of have their own Bitcoin standard. They're going to find themselves at a big advantage. I think more and more countries will directly start mining Bitcoin, like El Salvador.
Thank you. And next question, what is, in your opinion, the most important thing that government leaders should be focused on right now? So, and Brock, please share your opinion with us.
I think the most important thing as it relates to this innovation and what's happening here is to look at what's happened in El Salvador, to look at what's happening in Dubai and the UAE. As Mario stated, it's very hard to be first. Governments by nature are risk averse. And, but as you have clear data points and you have the ability to be a fast follower. That's really what this all comes down to. You want to be a fast follower. You don't necessarily want to be the leader, because that's a dangerous place to be when you think about it from a government perspective. Make sure that you're following what's happening. Get that data, and don't rely just upon headlines in the media. You have to make sure that you're operating with good information. And with that good information, you can make good decisions regarding your country's future. I can tell you from the conversations I'm having, they generally don't have the data. They're all curious, and they're all interested in understanding what they can do, which is why I continue to invest energy or time into this. Look at what's happened to Miami. Obviously, President Bukele has done an incredible thing in terms of showing the world what can be done with the Bitcoin law. Mayor Suarez in Miami said, hey, we're open for innovation. This is a place where you are welcome to come. And it's had incredible benefits in terms of moving innovators and intellectual capital as well as financial capital to Miami. And Miami as a city is leading in the United States as a result of it. It's even gotten Mayor Eric Adams, who's just been in office a couple of months, the most important city financially in the United States, to say he wants New York City to be the Bitcoin capital of the world. That New York City is going to be a 21st century financial hub, that it can stay the capital of capital. Do you need any more signals than that? The President of the United States and the White House issuing an executive order that is not negative on the innovation happening here and making sure to protect the innovation that's happening here. The mayors of New York City and Miami making statements like this. President Bukele making serious positive impact for his people. Dubai and the UAE betting their future on it across government. How much more data do you need before you realize the water is warm and that you don't have to make landmark moves? You don't need landmark legislation. You can take baby steps. You can walk before you run. Mayor Eric Adams, what did he do as his first move? He said he's taking his first 3 paychecks in Bitcoin. That is a step that anyone can take, and it has a very powerful signaling effect. It says that I'm open to innovation. It says I want to learn, and it begins the conversation. It's like people are like, wow, this is so complicated. How do I get into cryptocurrency? Blah, 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 blah. And, and they're intimidated by all of the information and the learning curve. The first step is you just need to buy $100 worth of Bitcoin, and there begins your journey. It's not that hard to make your first step, and that's what I tell individuals. For governments, it's not that different either. And that isn't just as a nation state, but each individual that works in government. How are you going to make good decisions regarding this technology if you don't have the beginning, the baseline understanding yourself? So, get involved, take a baby step. The rest of it, the path will begin to reveal itself. And if you feel bold, because remember, the future favors the bold, give me a call. I'll show you the landmark things if you're so interested in being a leader. But you don't have to be. There are ways to do this without taking substantial risk. But the benefits, again, the future favors the bold. Be a fast follower, get the information, and don't be last.
Well said.
So Rob Charles, what do you think on this?
So I think Brock made a great point about Miami and New York. I think all governments, all nations, everyone needs to start looking at things. And I'm a businessman, from a business perspective, meaning if you have, anytime you're spending money on anything, right? How does that equate to bottom line of a return on that capital that you're allocating, right? So in regards to countries, there's not one country or city in the world that doesn't need help during COVID. There's been many quarantines. People can't travel. Tourism's down. Travel's down. There's all types of things. So if you're trying to go into the old business models, and for example, like Thailand, for example, right? A lot of their GDP is based on tourism. Well, there's not a lot of tourism going on into Thailand. So how do they, how are they going to adapt and adjust to this? Well, so just going in and spending a lot of money on technology, that's just a cost center, right? How does that spending that technology or money on technology equate to GDP? How am I actually going to put, for example, Alex was talking about, Bitcoin mining, right? We're purchasing Bitcoin. There's other ways. From our perspective, from my perspective, it's very simple. Like people need exposure, they need eyeballs on, and they need capital to come into different markets. And the only way to do that is through technology and communications. It's very difficult for people to travel. Some people on this call right now do travel, but a lot of the rest of the world don't travel as often, right? So what are countries doing to actually spend money to update their technology, and how does that equate to, at the end of the day, GDP, right? How they bring in money into new opportunities, new jobs, more money into the economy. And the only way to do that, if people can't travel, is through technology. And if you don't update your technology, then you're going to be left behind. So that's where our perspective on it is, connecting the dots through technology, right?
Thank you. Alex Martini, please share your opinion. You're muted right now.
So I think the different governments, they have different priorities, right? So you'll have small countries like Salvador or other Latin American countries might have a different priority than the United States or England. And of course, the US have a clear incentive to keep the status quo, right? So preserve the dollar dominance. The dollar is the reserve currency. So they don't really have this vested interest of changing things. And so in a way, smaller countries are like startups. You have this big, like the dollar is the incumbent, and the innovation by definition is gonna come from small countries that want to change the status quo and get the seat at the table. And so you'll see a lot of dynamic plays. And I'm actually taking this call from Italy, and I can tell you that one of the, surprisingly, Europe has a lot of interesting and interesting new innovative blockchains as well. And I think we're gonna see, we're at the pivotal point, and the jury's out. We will know if the United States or China, which will be the dominant paradigm, the monetary paradigm in next years to come. But certainly, I applaud El Salvador for having the brave, the courage to change.
Thank you. And Mario, what do you think on this?
Look, the question was, what do I recommend for politicians? Now, I'm not in a position to do that. I just feel still too humble to do that. But I've got a few things I can say. First one is read the book, and they probably heard of it, Innovator's Dilemma, because it applies to businesses. And I've read this book many times as my business grew outside of crypto years ago. I would read this book so I don't fall prey to this dilemma. And essentially what Alex touched on already, you've got incumbents, and you look at the West, the US, for example, that disruption is a scary word, because they're looking at other countries. I don't want to get into politics, but they look at countries that want to, they don't want to use the US dollar as a reserve currency. And, they'd be worried about the change that technologies like blockchain would bring. So now I go back to what Brock mentioned. I think you don't need to be a leader, and I think the bigger an economy, the less likely you expect him to be a leader. It's a lot more complex than we give it credit. Experimenting is very, very, very important, and watching others who are experimenting is also important. And then just copy what works. There's no harm in doing that. But having, being too short-sighted and not having the courage to think long-term and try those experiments that could change it, as Rob mentioned, look at the bottom line. But if you look at the bottom line too short-term, then blockchain may not make as much sense, because those steps will take time to yield results. So I think experiments are important right now, and start with small steps. Again, Brock mentioned this, so I don't want to repeat things I already mentioned, but they're accurate, and that's probably the best advice. Start with small steps. Understand the space. I think education, I've been saying this for like 4 years, education is still key. But beyond education, understand how it works. Try it with a few economies, trying with a few projects, seeing how the concept of decentralization works. and apply, blockchain is a very general term. There's so many applications to it. See where it makes sense. You don't have to innovate, like countries like Estonia and obviously El Salvador, we keep using as an example. Dubai is doing great. You don't have to go as extreme as those countries, but there's some obvious use cases that bring obvious benefits, looking at transparency, for example, or efficiency, where it may yield results short term, as Rob was saying. It may impact the bottom line short term. So maybe do those first. Those are good experiments. And don't turn a blind eye on the countries that are more courageous than you. So that'll be my 2 cents.
Yeah, thank you. So the question to you, Alex, what steps should blockchain companies and startups take to cooperate with legislature and regulators to create favorable environment for blockchain adoption?
So it's a great question. And let me tell you, I've been focusing on Bitcoin mining for most of my crypto career. And in the past 6 months now, I find myself with lobbyists, Albany, New York State lobbyists, federal, DC lobbyists, and spending like so much of my time dealing with a backlash, because we talked about the positive role of government. We talk about executive order. We talk about the mayor of New York, the mayor of Miami, but we haven't talked about the elephant in the room, and there's still negative sentiment around Bitcoin, and a lot of ignorance. Like Mario said, not a lot of education, not a lot of reading. So I run this company. We operate in New York State, and guess what? New York. There's a bill in New York State that is planning to ban Bitcoin mining, or at least put a moratorium on Bitcoin mining for 3 years, which effectively would ban Bitcoin mining, and nobody would survive that. So I think I learned a lot in the past 6 months how to interface with these legislators. Sometimes could be that they come from a different political arena or different part of what I. Even if I don't believe in what they say, I'm trying to have a dialogue with them and spend as much time as possible in a non-hostile, non-adversarial posture, because ultimately what's gonna get us through is talking to one another and dialogue.
Thanks. And Rob Pierce, please share your opinion.
Well, the mining piece of it, just to add to that, it's really unfortunate how sensational headlines and lack of real analysis or fact finding, occurs, as it relates to Bitcoin mining. Bitcoin mining is good for the environment generally. Like all things, we're in an earlier sort of phase of where things are, but the main variable will avoid the equipment is the source of energy. To successfully mine, you need low-cost energy. Low-cost energy only exists in a handful of places, and renewables are now at a point where your lowest cost energy is starting to come from renewable resources, whether it be geothermal, like in El Salvador, hydroelectricity, solar, wind, and other things that will be coming online in the future. Generally, as it relates to fossil fuels, which is where the conversation is, you need cheap energy, and it's often finding stranded energy that would be otherwise wasted because it can't get to where the demand is. It can't be transmitted. And that allows these places that have excess capacity or what would be energy loss or loss of resources to turn that electricity into Bitcoin and allow that value to be transferred anywhere in the world to create energy, and through whatever means. I know as someone on the front lines of this that we have become an incredible resource for financing new energy infrastructure, renewable energy infrastructure around the world. I was just in Morocco a week and a half ago at the largest solar mine in the world. It's in Ouarzazate with the government looking at it all. It's We are a source of financing that is going to accelerate the adoption of renewable energy resources in the world. And it's a matter of getting the correct information out there. I'm having these conversations. I'm involved. And as far as New York is concerned, yeah, the mayor of New York City and New York City is making a lot of the right strides. New York State is where this issue is coming from. And for those of us that are impacted, we got to get the message out there. We have to inform people. I am on the ground talking to people in New York. It is an election year. Make sure your voices are heard. You know, this is the wonderful thing about a representative democracy is your voice matters, as does your vote, both in the ballot and with your wallet. And we are a very big constituency, and I am concerned. I wouldn't be out here. I don't want to run around talking to governments. This is not my idea of a good time. I do it because I care and I know it matters. It's going to have an impact on our future, and I want to see places like New York succeed. What happens to New York doesn't just affect New York. It affects the entire country. It affects the entire world, and that's why I show up for them. That's why I'm there to support them, to make sure that they're empowered with the right information, so that they can make the best decisions possible. And so, again, for any of you that are have access to your local government or your nation state government, you know, there is a lot of value for all of us in our collective future by being engaged and having those conversations. Certainly, if you know what you're talking about and you know how to articulate and provide insights and information that will help our leaders make better decisions on our behalf. And Alex, you and I should chat after the fact as it relates to New York. I sit on the board of Bit Digital, which obviously is doing wonderful work in terms of its commitment to renewable sources of energy for its mining operations. It's got a big presence in New York. And so not only do I care just in general, but as someone that serves on the board of a business that's publicly listed that could be impacted negatively, I'm additionally motivated, and let's take that offline and make sure that New York makes the right decision for New York and its future.
I was going to say, if you guys can hear me okay, sorry for just jumping on the stream. The mining recently is shifting around a lot. You know, we're seeing a lot of kind of what's happening with Russia and Kazakhstan and China kind of banning it. You're seeing a lot of these rigs move to the West where we have the rule of law. And so a lot of these big mining operations and operators are looking at the United States. And, you know, I was just in West Virginia where the government, local governments, the University of West Virginia, they're starting to donate buildings and basically getting the power companies to kind of drop to the level where we can bring these operators into the US. And it's starting to inform a lot of the policy making of these state and local governments. And that's really cool to see because, you know, bringing mining to places like West Virginia, you know, where they don't have a lot of opportunity, all of a sudden opens new jobs. Governments can tap into you know, part of the Bitcoin that's mined and start funding like amazing, you know, all sorts of government stuff. I think that recently is something that's it's gonna grow a lot more, especially as, you know, I mean, you look at British Columbia, a lot of miners went up there recently.
Yeah, no, absolutely attracting business and industry, certainly high growth industry that can generate a lot of wealth, and it opens up a lot of other doors. When your jurisdiction becomes good at hosting, you know, the front lines of, call it, compute, whatever your opinion is of Bitcoin and Bitcoin mining, making your state or your nation capable of running processes and high compute in a world where we know computing is going to matter is a good net long-term investment. And that infrastructure is moving around. And one of the amazing things for the U.S., remember, almost 75% of all Bitcoin mining was occurring in China up until recently. Yeah. And the United States is now the largest market in the world. And when we talk about dollars, I talk a lot about stable coins having, you know, started Tether. 97% of cryptocurrency settlement in fiat is in digital dollars. The dollar has 97% market share, and I'm constantly talking to legislators and regulators, making sure that they don't mess that up. The private sector has, done such a good job with projects like USDT and USDC that the U.S. is in a really good situation right now. We are the historic capital of innovation. I'm much relieved by this executive order that it doesn't look like the U.S. is going to lose its edge. And I hope that things like this continue to happen here domestically as someone that lives here and cares. And when we talk about the nations that have been shutting it down, these are typically countries that are not built upon the same philosophical foundation that the U.S. was created upon, which is life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. The countries that are uncomfortable with this are the ones that are uncomfortable with freedom and liberty generally. And so, I think, this is something that is very much philosophically aligned with what the U.S. stands for. And I'm glad to see that these technologies are being embraced. And we didn't talk about Wyoming, but got to give props to Wyoming for being the first state in the country to really lean in and welcome our industry as net valuable, a net valuable industry and something that was wanted.
And Texas. Texas.
And Texas. But the good news is the water is warm for anybody else. If you don't understand what's going on here, you're not going to be first. You won't be anywhere near first, which means this is the time to get in, and it's safe. Get on the train. It's moving, and good things will come of it.
So thank you everyone for joining us. We are running out of time, so yeah, we have to interrupt it. But thank you everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry, I'm late. Hey, Brock. Hey, Alex.
Hey, guys.
See ya.
Señoras y señores, regresamos al panel principal con los jóvenes. Adelante.